Jia Daoshi traveled to the Dajing Dynasty. This is a dynasty similar to the Tang Dynasty, but it does not exist in history. Years of war and chaos, sparse population. The government implements an official media system to address population issues. Unfortunately, my family is in dire straits, and even food and clothing are a problem. Helpless, Jia Daoshi could only roll up his sleeves and work hard. As he watched the days improve day by day, he suddenly realized that his identity as a pretty lady seemed not simple. Chapter 1. Ajiu. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. I stepped on a horse and was still alive. Jia Daoshi opened his eyes. As far as my gaze can see, against the backdrop of mountain snow, the distant mountains are faintly visible. As a southern potato, he came to northeast China for tourism yesterday. While hiking in the greater Qinglin mountains, he lost his way and ended up getting upset. So he decided to find a convenient place to go. But just halfway through, I saw a blind bear charging towards him with a grinning grin. Before he could regain his senses, those black and furry claws slapped him on the head. Then, his eyes darkened. I thought I was doomed. I didn't expect to survive. He looked around and didn't see the blind bear. But there is a person lying in front of me. This person is actually wearing ancient costumes. But the body has frozen, and the skin is pale and stiff from the cold. Come up and take a look, it's dead. The point is, this person looks exactly like him. Jia Daoshi. After being stunned for 5 minutes, consider your own situation. He is certain that he has traveled. It seems that there is indeed parallel spacetime. The person in front of me is another one in parallel time and space. Jia Daoshi is at a loss. He doesn't know exactly where this is or which dynasty it is. Jia Daoshi looked at the body in front of him, which was exactly the same as his own, and a flash of inspiration flashed in his head. Brother. From now on, I'm you, you're me. After saying this, he looked around and took out his mountaineering pick from his backpack. He dug a hole in the snow, stripped off his cotton jacket, and buried the person. After all, if you want to replace someone else's identity, you always have to destroy them. When dealing with the body, he found that this guy must have drunk too much and fell off the cliff on the mountain. Gotcha. At that very moment, he was also slapped by the blind bear. After resting in place for a moment, Jia Daoshi decided to leave here first. Because deep in the forest, several desolate wolf howls have already sounded. You can't just leave a bear's paw and enter a wolf's den again, can you? In order to prevent others from treating him as an outsider, he put on the same person's coat on his Archaeopteryx assault suit. A very wide green cotton jacket. Crawled on the mountain road for a while. Lang Jun. Lang Jun. Where are you? Lang Jun. Jia Daoshi. Lang Jun. Don't scare me. A hoarse shout came. Jia Daoshi. Isn't that exactly oneself? Sure enough, this is undoubtedly a parallel world. That unlucky guy just now is the self of this world, another Jia Daoshi. He has now taken over the identity of the guy just now, and the rest is nothing, just this short hair, it's a bit abrupt. After hesitating for a moment, he took out a hat from his backpack and put it on his head. After walking forward for a moment, he saw a thin figure, leaning on a cane, limping along the mountain road. Jia Daoshi has good eyesight. From a distance, he could see the girl with clear eyebrows and delicate features, but her eyes were red, indicating that she had just cried. The clothes on my body are covered in patches, and it doesn't look warm. My lips are a bit blue from the cold. The other party clearly saw Jia Daoshi, with a momentary expression on their face, and then walked over with an excited expression on their face. Lang Jun. It's great if you're okay. The villagers said you went to drink last night and said you fell off a cliff. They scared me to death just now. The girl walked towards Jia Daoshi with a limp as she spoke. I couldn't see it up close, but as I approached, Jia Daoshi noticed that although the little lady was only dressed in coarse linen clothes, her figure was delicate and graceful, and her skin was very white. Her long hair may have turned a bit yellow due to long-term malnutrition, and she had a messy braid tied to her back. At this moment, her gaze towards Jia Daoshi seemed relieved, but also somewhat fearful. Jia Dao secretly praised that such a girl, if placed in her own world, would be many times stronger than those internet celebrities. Cough. Auntie. Girl, are you here? Seeing Jia Daoshi staring straight at her, the girl's face showed a hint of shyness. Lang Jun. Did you really fall off a cliff and break your mind? I'm your wife. You never came back last night, and I thought. Fortunately, I finally found you now. I'll help you go back. Madam. Yeah. I'm your wife Ajiu. It seems that Lang Jun really drank a lot. Ajiu looked helpless. Surprisingly, I didn't go back all night. No wonder that unlucky guy's body is as cold as iron. At this moment, Ajiu had already stepped forward to help Jia Daoshi walk back. His nose slowly wafted a sour and sweet taste, like the scent of fragrant snowflakes. Fortunately, this little lady came out to find him, otherwise he really wouldn't know where to go. After crossing the mountain, they arrived at a small valley where there was a village full of ancient charm. The village is very small, and his home is even more dilapidated. Lang Jun, you've been frozen outside. I'll help you get a new robe and boil ginger water. Returning to the room, Ajiu kept busy and lively. This has left Jia Daoshi dumbfounded. How did you marry such a top-notch lady in such a leaky house? A soil embryo house, and a courtyard made of a few broken pieces of wood, placed in a past life, probably can only serve as a pigsty. After Ajiu brought the robe to Jia Daoshi, he immediately started boiling ginger water. Taking advantage of this gap, Jia Daoshi changed his clothes, put away his assault suit and backpack, and then began to look at the furniture inside the room. The furniture was simple, and in the end, his gaze fell on a cabinet in the corner, which looked like a bookcase. It seems that even in a parallel world, I quite enjoy reading books. I guess he's still a scholar who knows how to read and write. Then he stepped forward and flipped through for a moment, only to find that the books on the bookshelf were neatly placed, especially in the bottom cabinet, which was still locked. Quickly, he came across an ancient book called Dajing Dynasty. This type of book is usually issued by the court of the current dynasty, also known as the Yellow Book. Jia Daoshi took out a moment to flip through, then let out a sigh. Sure enough, this is called the Dajing Dynasty. Although it is not any dynasty I know of, it seems to be no different from the Tang Dynasty in my memory. Lang Jun, the ginger water is cooked. The sound sounded like a silver bell, and Ajiu walked out with a bowl in his hand. When she saw the book in Jia Daoshi's hand, her face suddenly changed. Then, she hastily placed the bowl on the table and knelt down with a thud. This scene confused Jia Daoshi. Chapter 2. The Unscrupulous Jia Xiucai. You are listening at novelfull.audio. What are you kneeling for? Jia Daoshi looked bewildered. Lang Jun, I shouldn't touch your bookshelf. I won't dare to do it again in the future. Ajiu knelt on the ground, trembling. I just want to wipe it. Surprisingly, what happened? Jia Daoshi is quite speechless. Alright, get up. He casually put the ancient books in his hand back into the bookshelf, and then stepped forward to help up the little lady. Unexpectedly, it could be that Ajiu's body was too weak, or he had just walked too much in the snow, and his foot was injured. When he got up, Ajiu's body shook and he fell. Just fell into Jia Daoshi's arms. The familiar aroma of snowflakes is quite pleasant. Ajiu exclaimed in surprise. Jia Daoshi lowered his head and looked at the rosy little face in his arms, feeling a bit confused and infatuated. Anyway, this is my own wife. It's normal to do something, isn't it? Thinking of this, he picked up Ajiu and reached out to touch inside her skirt. But at that moment, Ajiu's face turned pale again. Then, she struggled to break free from Jia Daoshi's embrace and knelt down again on the ground. Lang Jun. My concubine is really scared. This time, Ajiu's voice was trembling as he spoke. Jia Daoshi looked at his trembling body and was also confused. Did that guy leave any psychological shadow on this little lady? What's going on? I haven't dealt with you yet, have I? Before Jia Dao could finish speaking the truth, Ajiu was so scared that he kept kowtowing. Lang Jun. I know you hate those books the most. I just wiped the dust off the bookshelf and didn't intentionally pull off the curtains. Sir, last time you injured my right leg, my body is already unable to move. If my left leg is also injured, my body will not be able to serve left and right anymore. Upon hearing Ajiu's words, Jia Daoshi turned his head again to look at the bookshelf. Sure enough, a black cotton cloth fell off the ground next to the bookshelf. It seems that Ajiu is right. But so sensible, so beautiful, such a well-behaved lady, that kid can actually hit someone's leg, beast. All right. How could I blame you for such a small matter? Get up quickly, you still have a leg injury. Ajiu was taken aback. Lang Jun, are you really not angry anymore? Of course, Jia Daoshi comforted, I'm not really angry. Whoever is angry, who is the puppy? Speaking, Jia Daoshi made a face at Ajiu. Puzzy. Ajiu had never seen such a Jia Daoshi before. Suddenly, he burst out laughing. Jia Xiucai. Jia Xiucai. At this moment, a shout rang out from outside the house. Hurry up, the village is having a meeting, and everyone is coming over. You must be present by name. Li Zheng is the village chief. The person rushed to the door and shouted loudly, then turned around and left immediately. But this also allowed Jia Daoshi to know his identity. Surprisingly, he is still a scholar. Cultural people. Let's go to the meeting. Also, thank you really just now. Jia Daoshi smiled slightly at Ajiu. Ajiu. The Jia Daoshi in front of her made her feel a bit unfamiliar. Has my husband changed his personality and become better? Wait. Lang Jun, I'll go to the meeting with you. Ajiu glanced at the ginger soup on the table, picked it up and walked back to the kitchen, poured it into the swill bucket, and then hurriedly left. Jiazhuang. Suning grain field. At this point, many people have arrived. The elderly person in the middle has gray hair, snow-white beard, and a face full of grooves, wearing a black cotton jacket. It's Li Zheng. Beside the old man, there are several villagers who are maintaining order. The people in the village looked at Jia Daoshi with different expressions of disdain, surprise, pity, schadenfreude. Both. Not only that, but each one began to discuss in a low voice. Jia Xiucai is here. In a few days, he will have to pay the head tax. This kid is doomed. Yeah. At the beginning of the year, this kid took on several young ladies, and a year passed without any offspring landing. Since he couldn't contribute to the population, he had to pay head tax. If we calculate it this way, we have to pay head tax for 5 people, right? This is a big number. Unfortunately, this Jia Xiucai is being sent to the border and I don't know how long he can survive. And his wife, who was lucky enough to be sold to the Education Bureau, was unlucky enough to only go to the Apricot Blossom Tower. Listening to these words, Jia Daochuan's face showed a strange expression. Listening to this, it seems that I am not just a woman like Ajiu. What situation is this? Cough. Alright, stop talking. Li Zheng coughed lightly and continued, have you all seen it? The county government has arrived, and it's already the end of the year. It's time to pay taxes again. If there is a male born this year, one male can enjoy a head tax reduction. If there is none, then the full amount must be paid. If you dare not pay, men will go to the military, women can only go to the brothels or sell to wealthy families as slaves. Alright, that's all I have to say today. Everyone, go back and prepare. By the way, you've heard about the scholar from the Jia family, haven't you? Your family hasn't had a single child this year, so we can only pay all the taxes. After speaking, the old man gave Jia Daoshi and Ajiu a deep glance and said, Ajiu, you better make plans early. As he spoke, the old man let out a sigh and left. Ajiu lowered his head and didn't know what he was thinking. After hesitating for a moment, Jia Daoshi took a deep breath and said, Ajiu, let me ask a question. Besides you, do I have any other women? Ajiu was taken aback for a moment, then looked up and looked at Jia Daoshi with a puzzled expression on his face. Lang Jun, did you really break your mind on the mountain? When spring started this year, you took me in one go, Lin Jia, Shuang Jia, Yu Jia. Jia Daoshi. He can't believe his ears. After a while, with Ajiu's confession, he slowly understood his current situation. The Dajing Dynasty fought against various tribes in the north year-round, with a decreasing population year by year, especially the male population, which was already in danger. The entire Dajing Dynasty is in a situation of yin flourishing and yang declining. In order to stabilize the basic population, the Dajing Dynasty began implementing official media, allowing local county offices to allocate women. As long as they dared to marry 3 or more women, they could be rewarded. If a male is born within a year, please give me another reward. Initially, Jia Daoshi was extremely poor and went crazy. For a few bounties, he received 4 directly. Moreover, this Jia Daoshi, who considers himself a scholar and a talented person, doesn't look up to those strong rural women. He chose a thin and weak wealthy lady like Ajiu. The most important thing is that Ajiu was not one person at that time, but 4 sisters. The 4 of them once swore to marry together, or else they would commit suicide. So, who dares to marry? Married back, these slender arms and legs don't know how to do farm work. Aren't they waiting to starve to death? It's just Jia Daoshi, who dares to do so without risking his life. Chapter 3. Qinglin. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After returning from the grain drying field, Jia Daoshi finally understood. He needs to make money now, he needs to earn a lot of money. Because of the head tax in dyeing, it doesn't mean that a few people pay a few shares. This is stacked according to a certain proportion. 4 people, not just 4, according to the calculation method of this dynasty, we have to pay 10. This regulation may seem outrageous, but it is actually beneficial for ordinary people. Because of this, you have to think this way. If it weren't for this kind of taxation, if you had a little extra wealth, you would have married more women. Over time, more people would have been single. Apart from the truly wealthy, ordinary wealthy families would have married at most 2. Even in this situation of continuous warfare, there won't be more than 3. A poor lunatic like Jia Daoshi is truly rare. Are you really going to be sent to exile? Is that enough to make you sad? Although he worked as a special forces soldier before traveling, he has already retired for several years. Besides, since we've all traveled through time, who would want to join the army? A beautiful wife at home, what kind of soldier should she be? Isn't it good to enjoy life? Just as Jia Daoshi was pondering how to make some money and get through this difficult situation first, 2 people walked into the yard. These 2 people, one fat and one thin. One tall and one short. He was all dressed in luxurious clothes, and there was also a jade pendant hanging from the fat man's waist. The skinny guy has a fierce face. Fatty people look very lewd. Jia Daoshi frowned as he looked at these 2 people. Where are these 2 guys from? Turning his head to look at Ajiu hid beside him, reached out and tightly grasped Jia Daoshi's arm. his eyes flustered. Lang Jun, don't let them in. Don't be afraid, there's me. As Jia Daoshi, who was wearing it, had no memory of his original body, so at this point he could only take one step at a time. Jia Xiucai, what are you doing standing outside in such a cold weather? Hurry up and sit inside. The tall and skinny man looked at Jia Daoshi and chuckled. Coincidentally, I brought a pot of the best daughter red from Lichuan Tower, as well as 2 pounds of roasted meat. By the way, I also brought it for you from Manager Wang. Hurry up and entertain us. Treat you to paralysis. Get out of here. Jia Daoshi felt very disgusted when he saw these two people. What attitude is this? It's okay to come uninvited, but still have a haughty appearance. Moreover, Ajiu seemed very scared, and the way that chubby guy looked at Ajiu was also very lewd. After hearing Jia Daoshi's words, these two people were momentarily stunned, and then shook their heads with disdain on their faces. Jia Xiucai. Did you drink yourself crazy? What kind of tattered hat are you wearing? All right. Hurry inside and start a fire. As the skinny man spoke, he turned his head to look at Ajiu and said, and you, why are you so foolish? Hurry up and go in and cook a few small dishes. Such foolishness, rotten wood cannot be carved. Zhou Laosi, please keep your voice down and don't scare my little beauty. The chubby man reached out and touched his mustache, smiling contentedly. Ajiu's face turned white and his eyes turned red. Finally, he suppressed his tears and said, Lang Jun, I'll go in and prepare. Speaking, Ajiu limped back to the room. Jia Daoshi's face turned black. Bullying his wife in front of him. Who can bear it? Just as Jia Daoshi was about to stop Ajiu, Zhou Laosi suddenly said, Jia Xiucai. Why do you think you should take action? You're all from your own family. If Ajiu could walk normally with his feet, it would be great. Exactly. The fat man stroked his beard and nodded. Jia Daoshi could tell that these two people were putting on airs, with expressions in their eyes that showed no sympathy or pity. All right, it's snowing again. Hurry inside. Let's take a few sips first to warm up our bodies. Zhou Laosi did not consider himself an outsider at all. At this time, Jia Daoshi, relying on his years of experience, could already conclude that Zhou Laosi should be the so-called fox friend and dog friend. And this chubby guy is not a good person either. Don't worry, first feel the situation and see what can be extracted from these two populations. Zhou Laosi walked in with Wang Pengzi, the shopkeeper, and took out a stool to sit at the table. Jia Xiucai, you also come and sit down. By the way, where is your wife Qinglin? It's snowing outside and you've also gone hunting in the mountains. Zhou Laosi asked with a smile. Qinglin. It should be Lin Jia in Ajiu's mouth. She is also her own mother. Seeing Jia Daoshi's expression, Zhou Laosi shook his head and smiled. To be honest, if your alcohol tolerance is not good, you should drink less. Look at you now, you've almost become a fool. Jia Daoshi's face turned cold and he said, shut up. You're the one who's stupid to step on a horse. Teacher Zhou was taken aback for a moment, then said with a black face, do you dare to scold me? You said you don't remember Qinglin, and you are so kind to Morongjiu, this slut. Who is a fool? Jia Daoshi patted the table and said, Zhou Laosi. Do you believe that I'm not polite to you? Yo. Jia Xiucai still wants to hit people. Zhou Laosi sneered, how did you treat these women before, thinking I didn't know? If it weren't for Qinglin, you might have sold these women all long ago. You said you're a weak yang, why do you want so many young women? Also, you told me yourself that the shrew Qinglin is going hunting in the mountains today, and then asked us to come and take her away while she is not around. So, won't you have money to pay taxes? Listening to Zhou Laosi's words, Jia Daoshi focused his attention on this woman named Qinglin. It seemed that she was a tough woman, not only the unlucky predecessor, but also the two people in front of him were very scared. What's the origin? Forget it, don't say that. Manager Wang, you've seen it too. I'm right, isn't Jia Xiucai, this lady, as beautiful as a flower? Manager Wang nodded and said, it's really good. The fingers are like cutting onion roots, the mouth is like containing vermilion pills, and the delicate steps are unparalleled in the world. It's a pity, I don't know if this foot can be treated. Jia Daoshi can't listen anymore. Bang. He patted the table and said, get lost. My own woman, how can these sleazy men be judged? Jia Daoshi suddenly felt like a different person, with a murderous intent in his eyes, which startled both Zhou Laosi and Manager Wang. They can't figure out what the situation is with Jia Dao. Nowadays, Jia Daoshi has served in the Wolfang Special Forces for 6 years and has also gone to overseas battlefields for real combat. Killed people. I've seen blood. After retiring from the military, he also founded his own company. Where can these wine bags and rice bags compare? Just Jia Daoshi's gaze made the two of them panic. After a while, Zhou Laosi gritted his head and said, Jia Xiucai. What's wrong with you? You took the 200 yuan deposit. Do you still want to go back on your word now? There's no way. At this moment, Ajiu suddenly walked out of the room with a desolate expression and said, Lang Jun, how could you sell me? You haven't even taken me yet. Jia Daoshi. Just now, he didn't react to what Zhou Laosi said about Yang decline. Now I finally understand. So, is this Ajiu still perfect? No wonder. With such a beautiful woman, a year has passed and her belly is not even big. It's just trash. What? Are you still a virgin? Chapter 4. Starting first is the strongest. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Upon hearing this, the fat shopkeeper Wang became excited first. That's great. That's really great. I didn't expect the little lady to still be perfect. I thought the silver was not worth it. But now, it's me who picked a bargain. Zhou Laosi. You did a good job, and when you go back, I won't treat you unfairly. As he spoke, the fat man reached out and pinched Murong Jiu's face. Grass. How dare you take action? Climb for me. Jia Daoshi's face darkened. At this point, he had completely mistaken Murong Jiu for his wife. Bang. Then, he stood up and threw a punch. The nose bridge of the king fat shopkeeper. Ouch. My nose. This chubby guy was directly knocked to the ground, with nosebleeds and tears streaming down his face. Zhou Laosi. What are you still looking at? This poor scholar is crazy, hit him. Zhou Laosi's face also became very ugly. Jia Daoshi. You're really shameless. Even you, a poor scholar, dare to take action. Hurry up and kneel down to apologize to Manager Wang. Otherwise, you'll be in big trouble. Kneel down. You should kneel down for me. Anyway, it's already a comeback, and Jia Daoshi is not polite either. Fighting emphasizes being the first to take action. He casually picked up the nearby stool and threw it at Zhou Laosi. Jia Daoshi's strength is not small this time. Bang. Oh, yo. Where did Zhou Laosi expect that Jia Daoshi, a weak scholar, would become so brave? Unexpectedly, people were thrown out. Selling. Selling makes you numb. Jia Daoshi stepped forward and punched and kicked Zhou Laosi and Manager Wang. Bang. 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 Zhou Laosi and shopkeeper Wang were already of the mischievous and rogue type. How could they have expected Jia Daoshi to be so fierce? This time, everyone was stunned. Click. Zhou Laosi broke his leg directly from being hit. Stop. 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 Jia Daoshi. Brother Daoshi. Oh you. Xiucai. Stop fighting. I beg you. If you hit again, you'll kill someone. If you kill me, you'll also be exiled 3,000 miles away. Zhou Laosi was beaten and begged for mercy repeatedly. Damn it. This poor scholar, how could he have such great strength? The shopkeeper next to him was already sweating profusely, crawling with his hands and feet towards the outside. You know, this Jia Daoshi is the most famous waste in Jia village. Hands have no strength to bind chickens. Fighting. I dare to bully my own wife at home. But now. Jia Daoshi blushed, as if venting his anger fiercely. Zhou Laosi was quickly beaten to a pulp. Speaking of which, Jia Daoshi came to this dynasty inexplicably, and he really held a fire in his heart. Now let it out and feel much more at ease. Ajiu suddenly realized at this moment. She secretly put away a small dagger in her hand, reinserted it back into the leggings inside her skirt, and then hurriedly stepped forward to pull away Jia Daoshi. Lang Jun, stop it. If you continue to fight, I'm afraid you're not going to get into a lawsuit for life. At this point, Zhou Laosi was completely unrecognizable. If Jia Daoshi really kills someone, according to the laws of dying, he will definitely be exiled to the border. When the time comes, these weak women will probably have even worse consequences. Get lost. Jia Daoshi kicked Zhou Laosi hard. Zhou Laosi looked at Jia Daoshi, who was covered in evil energy, and was so frightened that he crawled around in fear. Jia Daoshi. You wait for me. Zhou Laosi climbed to the entrance of the yard and turned around to say a harsh word to Jia Daoshi. However, when Jia Daoshi saw it at first glance, the two of them were covered in goosebumps and hurriedly helped each other, fleeing in despair. Humph, dare to think of me as a woman. Seek death. Jia Daoshi gave a sigh of relief. Then, he turned around and walked to Ajiu. Madam, just now I didn't control my husband and scared you. Lang Jun, please sit down first, and I will help you wash your face with hot water. Murong Jiu's voice was light and very calm, with a hint of coldness in it. Jia Daoshi could tell that this little lady was probably angry. This is also normal, no matter who knows they are going to be sold, they must be angry in their hearts. What's that? Madam, if I say the person who sold you is not me, do you believe it? Jia Daoshi suddenly said. This is definitely not what he sold. That's a good deed done by Jia Dao in this world. However, Ajiu didn't speak and just walked to the back kitchen to start boiling water. Jia Daoshi looked at the somewhat stubborn figure and sighed in his heart. It seems that as a woman, I still have a temper. He walked to the bookshelf and peeled off the black cotton cloth. Inside was the Archaeopteryx backpack that he had traveled with, and he dug out a pack of black laccoon. There are still 17 cigarettes left inside. Draw one less one. Take out one, light it with a lighter, and then put it back in the backpack. Jia Daoshi sat at the door with a cigarette in his mouth. I have finally traveled through time, and materials like cigarette lighters must be used sparingly if they can be saved. Although I didn't have a career that I had worked hard for many years, no matter what, my beloved wife is still here. It may not seem like a good relationship right now, but can this thing be slowly cultivated? After smoking a cigarette, Ajiu walked out with a basin of hot water in his hand and said, Lang Jun, wash the blood off your body first. Oh, thank you. Jia Daoshi nodded and stood up. Ajiu was stunned again. She always feels like the gentleman in front of her is strange today. Not only did she beat up her friend, but she also said thank you to her. However, without much thought, she grabbed Jia Daoshi's hand and put it into the basin. Tisk. Jia Daoshi's hand just touched hot water and immediately bounced back like an electric shock. He had just beaten up the shopkeeper Zhou Laosi Wang, causing an opening in his hand. At this time, he was stimulated by hot water, and a slight pain was normal. But this action made Ajiu tremble again. She quickly knelt down on the ground and said, "Lang Jun. I'm all clumsy, Lang Jun, don't be angry." Looking at the pale-faced little lady, Jia Dao was really helpless. He doesn't mean to be angry, does he? So, it can only prove that Jia Daoshi had beaten this little lady too badly before. Poor thing. Such a top-notch girl, if she had lived in her past life, there would have been many wealthy families waiting to lick her. This is all fate. Alright, I didn't say anything, did I? I'll wash my hands, you take the grilled meat on the table and cut everything, then cook 2 more dishes, and also heat the wine. This is our dinner, Jia Daoshi said casually. Ajiu carefully glanced at Jia Daoshi and realized that he had no intention of blaming her, so he went to get the roasted meat and his daughter Hong. Gudong. Jia Daoshi saw that Xiaonizi's throat seemed to move, and he could tell that she was quite hungry. When Ajiu walked into the kitchen, Jia Daoshi began to clean the blood from his body. Then, he carried a basin and walked out of the yard, pouring the blood onto the roadside. I just arrived at this era and didn't expect to encounter so many chaotic things. Looking back at his new home and thinking that he would be living here for a long time in the future, Jia Daoshi felt quite heartbroken. After all, before traveling, I had just renovated a big field building. Is Chapter 5 blind? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Green bricks and yellow soil. Some parts of the wall have already cracked, while others have collapsed. The window is leaking air. Fortunately, the roof tiles are still relatively intact. Sitting in the room before, if there was no fire, the cold air poured in from the window or wall hole could freeze people into ice. My family is in ruins, except for that bookcase, there is no decent furniture left. But according to Ajiu, does this Jia Xiucai seem to dislike reading? Since he doesn't like reading, how did this scholar come about? Never mind, since that unlucky guy has died, these things are not important anymore. Lang Jun. A call brought Jia Daoshi back to his senses. The girl under the sunshine, her eyes clear like water, exuding a pure beauty that is heart-stopping. Such a beautiful woman, who has lived under the same roof for so long, is still perfect. Lang Jun, you can eat now. Well, here we go. Jia Daoshi walked into the room, and Ajiu had already brought the food to the table. Apart from the grilled meat just now, just a plate of stir-fried vegetables. There is also a bowl of rice. Inside the rice, there are even tiny pieces of bran. Jia Dao sighed inwardly, how hard these little days have been. As soon as he sat at the table, Ajiu consciously stood aside. Jia Daoshi was momentarily stunned. Just as he was about to ask, Ajiu had already picked up the jar of daughter's red and carefully poured a small bowl for Jia Daoshi, saying, Lang Jun. You. Drink. From her reaction, it can be seen that this little girl doesn't like drinking on her own. But she still collapsed. Stop. I'll just drink a little today, Jia Daoshi blocked Ajiu's hand as he poured the wine. Ajiu was taken aback. As a gentleman, he used to be neither drunk nor happy. Putting down the wine jug, Ajiu picked up the meat and handed it to Jia Daoshi's mouth. Lang Jun, eat the meat. Jia Daoshi. He is very helpless. He really can't eat this way of eating. Ajiu, sit down and eat together. Lang Jun, you must not. What's absolutely necessary? Sir, if I say yes, then that's okay. And you, don't be so reserved in the future. We should help each other between husband and wife. Please sit down and eat together. Lang Jun, this. Eat it. If you don't eat, I won't eat either. Jia Daoshi put down the bowl. In this way, Murong Jiu dared not say anything more and sat down carefully, picking up his chopsticks. Jia Daoshi pushed the rice in front of her and said, You eat it. You have thin arms and legs. How can you have the strength to work without eating it? Wow. But as a result, Ajiu suddenly cried, tears streaming down his face. Jia Daoshi. He has never been in a relationship in his life, and he really doesn't know how to comfort him. He can only say in his gentlest language, "Madam, I just saw that you were too thin. I asked you to eat more, why are you still crying?" Ajiu listened and wiped away a tear. "Lang Jun, I didn't mean to cry either. I was just too surprised, Lang Jun. Do you want me to have a last meal and then sell me again?" Ajiu's voice was filled with helplessness and sorrow. Jia Daoshi felt very uncomfortable after listening. It seems that this little girl lacks a sense of security. He let out a long sigh, wanting to comfort, but at this moment. Bang! A loud bang. The already weak door of the house was directly smashed. Jia Daoshi. You bastard. You let me go hunting today. When I'm not here, you can sell Ajiu. Yes or no? A clear and cold sound sounded outside. Keep going. Bang. A hunting knife full of notches, slashing through the air and nailing to the table. Bang. The wine bowl on the table fell to the ground and broke in half. The sawdust on the table was flying, and the tremendous force made the handle of the knife still tremble gently. Jia Daoshi. At this moment, he was already in a cold sweat. If this hunting knife were to move forward a little bit, it would hit me. Who is this again? Do you want to kill someone? Isn't it true that Dajingchao's punishment for murderers is very severe? Jia Daoshi looked up and looked towards the door. A tall girl wearing a black patched cotton jacket appeared at the door. The girl's skin appears a wheat color, and her hair is casually tied behind her head with a cloth strip. But her eyes were covered with a navy blue gauze. Although covered with gauze, judging from her tall nose, small mouth, and slender fingers, the girl was still a beautiful woman. But why is she blindfolded? Are you blind? Qinglin sister. You're back. Qinglin. Qinglin. Does this seem to be one of my own wives? Jia Daoshi looked at the blindfolded woman in front of him. Her figure was not average height, she should not be much shorter than herself. Even if wearing a cotton jacket, judging from their physique, the other person's figure is definitely good. Due to running all the way back, Qinglin's head was still steaming hot and his face was flushed. Judging from the opponent's recent strike, this is completely different from Murongjio. Murongjio is the type who can arouse a sense of protection at a glance. But the woman in front of him could make Jia Daoshi's desire to conquer rise. Ajiu. It seems that I have come back at the right time. Qinglin approached and took the hunting knife from the table, then blocked Murongjio. If anyone dares to take you away, ask me about the knife in my hand first. Seeing this scene, Jia Daoshi looked confused. What is the situation? Can this woman actually see it? Still invisible. Qinglin, in order to improve the food and supplement some household expenses, he went hunting in the mountains early this morning. Her eyes are not blind, they have a very strange eye disease, which is very photophobic. So she usually wears this navy blue gauze, and through this gauze, she can observe the surroundings. She can only take off the gauze at night. At the same time, her hearing is very sharp. But after all, the eyes are not easy to use, and whether one can catch prey when going up the mountain usually depends on luck. Like today, her luck wasn't very good. A morning passed and she didn't hit anything. Just as she returned to the village entrance, she heard the villagers discussing the news that Zhou Laosi and manager Wang were coming to buy Ajiu, so she ran back all the way. Qinglin sister. After seeing Qinglin, Murongjio's grievances in his heart were like a flood breaking out, and he started crying again. Looking at the pitiful Murongjio, Qinglin was furious in his heart. Chapter 6. This woman is too crazy. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After years of war and turmoil, Murongjio has become a frightened bird. I finally have a foothold, I just hope to be safe and sound. Qinglin sighed in his heart, reached out to help Murongjio wipe away the tears from the corners of his eyes, then turned around and glared fiercely at Jia Daoshi. Those surnamed Jia. Qinglin's sister. Before Qinglin could say anything, he was stopped by Murongjio and said, Qinglin, my husband. Langjun. Ajiu. What kind of Langjun is he? He's still full of poetry and books. Oh my God. This is a stinky scholar full of bad water. Qinglin cursed. As long as it's a person, they won't sell their own wife. This bastard is simply inferior to a beast. Think about it, what kind of days are we all living? Qinglin seemed to get angrier as she spoke. She raised her hunting knife and charged towards Jia Daoshi. Shua. Looking at the gaping hunting knife, Jia Daoshi's scalp exploded. If I were to be cut with such a knife, wouldn't I be deposed? Hey! Wait! Stop it! Impulsiveness is the devil. You ask Ajiu. Did I sell her? Jia Daoshi dodged and hid on the other side of the table. This woman is too crazy. Damn it. The villagers have all said it. You charged 200 won. You're going to sell Ajiu. I confiscated it, it was actually collected by Jia Dao. Great. Just admit it. Wait. Listen to me. Jia Daoshi was speechless. He doesn't know what to say now. Jia Daoshi. Today, I'll just kill you, a beast. It's better than that. A pig and a dog are worse than that, you bastard. Qinglin let out a roar, waved his knife, circled the table, and chased after Jia Daoshi. Qinglin's sister. Wait. No. Upon seeing this scene, Murongjio quickly stepped forward and hugged Qinglin. If Jia Daoshi is really killed, their sisters will commit the crime of murdering their own husbands. They will be wanted by the government and their identities will be found. Then there will be no more place for them in the entire scenery. Ajiu. What are you blocking me for? I'm just going to kill him. Qinglin's sister. The husband didn't sell me. Instead, he beat Zhou Laosi and his gang away. Besides, if you really kill him, what should we do? What should Jia and his gang do? Have you ever thought about it? In addition to Qinglin, Murongjio also has two older sisters, Mu Weishuang and Yan Ryu. However, both Mu Weishuang and Yan Ryu couldn't bear Jia Daoshi and were forced to leave. People don't know where they are now. Murongjio tightly hugged Qinglin and didn't let go. Ajiu, anyway, we can't pay taxes now. In the end, there's still a dead end. It's better to kill something worse than this beast before we die. Qinglin gritted his teeth and said, look at your leg. It was also done while I'm not around. Think about what kind of oppressive life we've been living this year. All the prey we brought back was sold by him for drinking and gambling. I lost the bet. I got drunk. Come home and take it out on us. You let go. Qinglin is full of murderous spirit. Qinglin's sister. As long as you're still alive, there's hope. Murongjio said softly. However, it seems that she doesn't even believe her own words. However, upon hearing these words, Qinglin's delicate body trembled. Then, she slowly put down her hunting knife in her hand. Yeah. That's absolutely right. As long as you live, there is still hope. As for Jia Daoshi, he was also very emotional at this moment. Finally, Qinglin threw away the hunting knife in his hand and sat beside him, sulking. And Murongjio's heart is also very complex. Although Jia Daoshi didn't sell her today, what about the future? Who can guarantee that such things won't happen again in the future? Ajiu. I don't think so. We still have to kill him. Then, I'll take you out of here. The world is so big, where can't we go? After pondering for a moment, Qinglin picked up his hunting knife again. Get up and charge towards Jia Daoshi. Jia Daoshi. Is this endless? In this way, he can only give this Qinglin a blow. Fortunately, Qinglin's eyes are not working well. She can easily crush the previous Jia Daoshi, but she is not qualified enough to deal with this Jia Daoshi who has crossed over. Qinglin only felt the figure in front of him flicker, and the knife in his hand was taken away by Jia Daoshi. Entering the white blade with empty hands is a basic skill of the special forces, and it has become Jia Daoshi's muscle memory. Qinglin was stunned. It was really effortless to clean up this Jia Dao before. What's going on today? Does this guy have such skills? Qinglin. Jia Daoshi looked serious and said, think about it. If I really want to sell Ajiu, why did I just beat Zhou Laosi and manager Wang away? I know, I was really a jerk before. But now I'm different. If I want to do something worse than a pig or a dog again, you don't have to do it. I washed my neck and asked you to chop it off. As he spoke, Jia Daoshi tightly grasped Qinglin's hand. You. Let go of me. Qinglin wanted to break free, but she found that Jia Daoshi's strength was so strong. You said you're not going to take action, I'll let you go. Jia Daoshi was also very helpless. This Qinglin is too spicy. Damn it. Qinglin realized that he couldn't break free at all, and in the end, he turned around and opened his tan mouth to bite Jia Daoshi. But how could Jia Daoshi let her bite? With a flash of his figure, he jumped behind Qinglin and then used his hand to cut back Qinglin's hand. In this way, Qinglin turned his back to Jia Daoshi. However, Qinglin was still unwilling. She turned her head and continued to bite towards her back. At this moment, Jia Daoshi was also about to speak up. Two open lips immediately collided with each other. For a moment, warm and soft. Like willow branches and sweet dew. Jia Daoshi instinctively blinked his mouth and even took a sip. Qinglin's eyes widened in an instant. A pretty face also turns bright red. Even the black gauze that was blindfolded fell off halfway under this friction. Just one glance, Jia Daoshi saw those dark green eyes. Qinglin felt as if he had been electrocuted, crispy and numb. This is her first time being so intimate with a man. Then, Jia Daoshi found that his body and his arms suddenly softened. He remembered what Murongjiu had said before, that since they married Jia Daoshi, this guy wouldn't even touch them. If Ajiu is like this, then this Qinglin must be the same. Bark. Jia Daoshi, quickly turn his head. I didn't expect it to be Lass. This. Should it be so exciting? He has never had such an experience before, okay. But this feeling is really quite wonderful. Chapter 7. Grinding Knives. You are listening at novelfull.audio. You. Let go of me. Qinglin's face was flushed. 70% of the eyes are angry, 30% are shy. She never expected that for the first time, she would be taken away by Jia Daoshi in this way. Don't let go. I hold my own mother, kiss my own mother, and still break the law. Jia Daoshi looked at the beautiful woman in front of him with a wicked smile. Although this Qinglin has a very aggressive personality, the cherry blossom lips on her face make her look a bit silly and cute. Especially the slightly dark green pupils just now, which amazed Jia Daoshi. Ajiu is like a peaceful spring, while Qinglin is like a dancing flame. Damn it. You're shameless. How dare you talk to your husband like this? Jia Dao simply flipped Qinglin's body around and hugged him. With this feeling, he could feel that Qinglin's waist was very slender and powerful. I am your husband. As soon as you meet, you shout, fight and kill. You can let me go if you want, unless you bow down and admit your mistake. To be honest, my husband, I was wrong. You can't think. Qinglin refused without even thinking. She really wants to tear Jia Dao's mouth apart now. It has been almost a year since she came here, and she knows exactly what kind of virtue Jia Dao is. Want to make her submit? It's just a dream. But what's wrong with my hot face? Qinglin closed his eyes and bit his silver teeth, saying, I won't apologize to you. If that's the case, then I won't let go. Jia Daoshi chuckled. This is still his first time holding such a beautiful woman, it feels really good. You. And, with your eyes closed like this, are you begging for a kiss from your husband? Rogue. Qinglin wanted to resist, but after trying a few times, she found that today's Jia Dao was incredibly powerful. I've seen a ghost. Upon seeing this scene, Ajiu also widened his eyes. This is the first time she has seen her Qinglin sister suffer a loss. After a moment of silence, Qinglin could only soften and say, Lang Jun. I was wrong. The voice was very light, probably only Qinglin could hear it himself. Jia Daoshi certainly wouldn't let her go so easily. It's too light, my husband. I can't hear you clearly, he said that season. Upon hearing this, Qinglin's body trembled, then took a deep breath and gritted his teeth, saying, Mr. Lang. I'm wrong. At this moment, Jia Daoshi saw tears sliding from the tightly closed eyes of the other party, and immediately stopped seeing the improvement. He released his hand, helped Qinglin cover the gauze again, hesitated for a moment, and then reached out to wipe away the tears from Qinglin's face. However, Qinglin pushed him away and then angrily ran into the yard, constantly kicking the dry grass on the ground. Seems to be venting. Seeing this scene, Ajiu felt a stone fall to the ground in his heart. She is really worried that Qinglin won't dare to ignore and will fight hard with Jia Daoshi. If Jia Daoshi is killed, these sisters will have to live a vagrant life next. The key is, the whereabouts of Qingjie are unknown now. Ajiu is not afraid of death, she is afraid of involving her own sisters. Additionally, she noticed that Jia Daoshi seemed really different. Just now, for his own sake, he beat up both Zhou Laosi and manager Wang, and his actions were so ruthless that it didn't seem like he was acting. Can you say that after freezing outside all night, he really changed his ways? If that's the case, that's really great. Ajiu, call Qinglin back, let's have dinner first. Jia Daoshi couldn't help but laugh as he watched Qinglin kicking weeds in the yard. This Qinglin may seem like a big girl, but she still has a childlike nature. By the way, Ajiu, your Qinglin sister's eyes. Upon hearing this, Ajiu turned around and looked at Jia Daoshi with some confusion. Lang Jun, why did you even forget about this? Qinglin's eyes cannot see strong light. She has to wear gauze during the day and can only take it off at night. Oh, Jia Daoshi sneered, then don't let her stand outside. Hurry up and call her in for dinner. Ajiu walked out of the room, pulling and pulling, coaxing Qinglin back. After entering the room, Qinglin still had a stern face. Jia Daoshi smiled and said, sit down quickly and have some grilled meat first. There's too little rice, and the three of us won't be able to eat enough. I'll go and cook some more. As a diamond king, Jia Daoshi not only enjoys exercising but also enjoys cooking for himself and cooking delicious dishes. Speaking, he got up and walked towards the kitchen. Lang Jun. At this moment, Ajiu spoke up and called out to him, cautiously saying, Lang Jun, we're not hungry. You just need to eat, and by the way, our family has run out of rice and noodles. Jia Daoshi. Well. Jia Daoshi paused for a moment, then nodded and said, then let you eat this bowl of rice first. As for me, I'm not hungry anyway. Ajiu. Qinglin. A look of disbelief appeared on both women's faces. Jia Daoshi shook his head and said, "Don't look at me like that. Don't worry, follow me in the future, and I will never let you suffer from cold, hunger, and bullying again. Besides, I will definitely love you well." This sentence. I said it. The social status quo of the entire Dajing Dynasty was male superiority and female inferiority. Especially in rural areas, as a woman, her status will be lower than third class. So after hearing Jia Daoshi's words, both women had a haunted expression on their faces. Not to mention Ajiu, even Qinglin's face turned red. Lang Jun. Ajiu's eyes were red. Jia Daoshi chuckled and said, "How about you guys eat first? It's getting late, and if you don't eat again, the rice will be cold." Qinglin glanced at Jia Daoshi, his beautiful eyes hidden under the dark blue gauze, giving people an inexplicable sense of mystery. After a while, the two women finally started eating under Jia Daoshi's urging. The grilled meat brought by Zhou Laosi was not small, and Jia Daoshi also took a few bites together, feeling that the taste was quite good. And Ajiu and Qinglin can only be described as wolfing down. After finishing his meal, Ajiu began to tidy up the dishes, while Qinglin silently picked up the hunting knife full of notches and prepared to sharpen it. The hunting knife in her hand not only had notches, but also had a deformed blade that was completely unusable. No wonder we couldn't catch the prey. After polishing for a moment, Jia Daoshi found that Qinglin had stopped moving. It looks like I'm either daydreaming or looking at the hunting knife in my hand. In fact, in this era, if you want to hunt, you still have to rely on bows and crossbows. With this hunting knife, unless one is extremely lucky, there can never be any harvest. Your hunting knife is useless, it needs to be replaced with a new one. Jia Daoshi walked out of the room and sat next to Qinglin, saying. Chapter 8. Strong like a bear. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Replace it with a new one. Our family is already so poor that we can't cook anymore. How can we replace it with a new one? Qinglin couldn't help but say. Speaking of this, Qinglin got angry. Over the past year, she has not achieved nothing and has also hunted many prey with her own skills. However, the money exchanged for hunting in the end was either taken by Jia Daoshi to drink or lost the bet. Who has the money to exchange hunting knives? In this era, iron tools are very precious, and tools like hunting knives are more precious than hoes and the like. Can we go on credit? When we make money, we'll pay it back. Jia Daoshi asked cautiously. He doesn't know if there are blacksmiths or anything like that in this place. Because according to the previous reading of Dajing Dynasty, all blacksmiths in this era needed official dental stickers to operate. After all, ironware was also a strategic material during this period. Toothpaste is something similar to a business license. After hearing Jia Daoshi's words, Qinglin sneered and said, "On credit. If you dare to go on credit, your uncle may kill you." Upon hearing these words, Jia Daoshi's eyes lit up and he said, "What? Uncle is a blacksmith. Is it really fake?" Qinglin looked at Jia Daoshi with a puzzled expression on his face. Seeing that Jia Daoshi didn't seem to be pretending, he immediately said, "Lang Jun, aren't you really stupid? Do you still know who you are?" Jia Daoshi was very embarrassed when he heard these words. But it's also very helpless. Who made him fake? Perhaps I really drank too much alcohol and then fell off the cliff, which damaged my brain, right? I have forgotten many things, and now I only remember you few women. Jia Daoshi hesitated for a moment before speaking. Oh. What's wrong with your hair? And where did you get this strange hat from? Why haven't I seen it before? Qinglin suddenly asked such a fatal question. Jia Daoshi hesitated for a moment before saying, "When I fell off the cliff and fell into a coma, I met a high monk from the western regions who enlightened me. So I cut my hair, and this hat was also a gift from him. Qinglin said, I see. I wonder why your changes have been so significant. In the martial arts world, it is said that the eminent monk from the western regions has profound Buddhist teachings. As expected, I wonder where this eminent monk from the western regions has gone. Jia Daoshi shook his head and said, eminent monk from the western regions, naturally heading west. Qinglin shook his head and said, uncle lives at the foot of the mountain in the north of our village. He is the only blacksmith in the 5 villages here. I've been thinking about getting a new hunting knife for a long time, but I'm afraid he might scold you again. Jia Daoshi smiled and said, how do you know if you don't try? Qinglin thought for a moment, but there was no other way. In these days and years, the only way she could think of to make money was to go hunting in the mountains. After catching the prey, she would go to the nearest Ilan county to sell it for money. Otherwise, we would have to wait at home and die. After discussing with Murong Jiu in the room, the two of them went out and walked towards the north of the village. Some villagers couldn't help but argue when they saw Jia Daoshi and Qinglin going out. TSK. Look at us, Jia Daoshi, where are we going? Unfortunately, there are 4 beautiful little ladies, one is blind, one has broken her leg from being beaten by him, and there are also 2. Ahem. What a sin. They won't be looking for their uncle again, will they? What can we do to find our own uncle? Is it difficult for his uncle to still lend him money? Let me tell you something, his uncle Jiao. I bought some iron ore from a wandering caravan a while ago, but who knew that these iron ores were all scrap? The agricultural tools and kitchen knives produced were useless. What a huge loss. If they go to borrow money, they will definitely not have good fruit to eat. Because Jia Daoshi has a poor reputation, the people in the village are very rude to him. Hey! That's enough of you. Jia Daoshi couldn't stand these villagers anymore. Shut up, everyone. If you keep talking nonsense, believe it or not, I'll beat you up. The villagers were startled when they shouted loudly. Seeing Jia Daoshi exuding a murderous aura, everyone felt a little uneasy. Cut it. If you don't say it, then don't say it. See if you can pay the head tax then. When you cry. Jia Daoshi sneered, can I pay the head tax? You don't have to worry about it anymore. Qinglin saw the situation and advised, Lang Jun, the villagers don't need to worry about what they say, after all. After all, what they say is the big truth. Qinglin did not say the latter half of this sentence. Judging from Jia Daoshi's intention of reform, she wouldn't pour cold water at this time. No matter what, he is his own husband. In addition, living under the eaves for nearly a year, Qinglin has also almost figured out Jia Daoshi's personality. This guy is very bad and self-righteous, and he can't listen to what the villagers say the most. It's common for conflicts to arise at the slightest disagreement. At this moment, he didn't want Jia Daoshi to rush up and fight with others again. Humph, don't worry, madam. My husband will soon slap them in the face. Jia Daoshi shrugged his shoulders. To the north of the village, at the foot of the mountain. It has just snowed, and the mountains behind the village are covered in silver. Jia Quan, holding a welding cigarette gun in his hand, squatted and leaned against the gate of the yard, with a worried expression on his face. In the yard. Dad. These iron lumps are so interesting. I'll turn them all up. Ha ha ha. Turn faster. Turn faster. Ho 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 ho. A tall, muscular, and dark-skinned man of 7 feet was spinning around in the yard with those black iron lumps. Even in snowy weather, this guy is naked and not wearing clothes. With a figure of over 2 meters, he is as strong as a bear. I said it's the head of the family. What should we do now? These iron ores are all scrap, and our family doesn't have the money to buy good ores from the iron smelting company. At the end of the year, we have to pay the head tax again. If we can't pay it, you two will have to be sent to the border. So what should we do if we keep me? A woman shook her head and sighed beside her. Jia Quan is the uncle of Jia Daoshi. After listening to the woman's words, Jia Quanzi took a puff and said, "What else can we do? We went to battle as father and son soldiers, and Hu and I went to the battlefield. With his innate divine power, maybe we could even become a general. Dream it. With his brain like a melon seed, he will go to the battlefield and still be treated as cannon fodder by others. If you go, you will definitely go to the vanguard camp. When the time comes, you will face the cavalry of the Tartars. No matter how strong your strength is, you will be useless. They will shoot arrows from a distance, and with just a few breaths, they will kill you and your master. What will I do then?" Upon hearing this, Jia Quan looked impatient and said, "You mother.in.law, you don't have anything good to say. This one doesn't work, and that one doesn't. What else can you do?" Creak, creak, just as these words were spoken, Jia Daoshi and Qinglin walked over in the snow. Chapter 9. Coming without a shadow and going without a trace. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Uncle, Auntie. Qinglin had not yet walked to the entrance of the courtyard and had already sensed the smell of gunpowder in the air. "Qinglin is here. Come in quickly, what's up?" Jia Quan saw Qinglin with a smile on his face. Although this girl has bad eyes, they have all seen her performance over the past year. Not only can one endure hardship and hard work, but also possess excellent martial arts skills. Such a girl is hard to find even with a lantern on. It's just this Jia Daoshi, it's really outrageous. So, although Jia Quan greeted Qinglin with a smile, when he saw Jia Daoshi, his face turned black. "Jia Daoshi, what are you doing here, kid?" Jia Quan looked disdainful. "If you want to borrow money, no." As soon as his words fell, the young man, who was as strong as a bear, saw Jia Daoshi and burst into laughter, rushing over and saying, "Hee hee. Jia Daoshi. Come and take me to play. I want to play dice." "Play dice. The loser will play turtle." Jia Daoshi. This big brain doesn't seem to be very good, does it? And it looks like he's his own cousin. "Play. I'll let you play. Get out of here." Jia Quan watched as his foolish son wanted to play dice with Jia Daoshi, and he was so angry that he stepped forward and kicked his big butt. "Dad! Don't kick me. Don't kick me. I'm not playing anymore. I'm not playing anymore." The big guy felt pain and hurriedly hid behind Qinglin. Jia Quan's kick happened to hit Qinglin's body, but at this moment, Qinglin didn't react either. Jia Daoshi took a step forward and gently reached out his hand to dissolve the kick. "Uncle, do we have something to say? Well? Besides, I'm not here to play." Jia Daoshi chuckled. "Humph." Jia couldn't help but feel a little surprised as he saw this useless person easily resolve his own kick. "So, what are you doing here?" "Uncle, we have something to ask for." Qinglin said with a stiff face. "Well, Qinglin, you can tell me anything," Jia Quan nodded. "But if it's about taxation, uncle, I'm powerless. You should know that a few days ago, uncle took a small advantage and bought some iron ore from a passing caravan, spending all the remaining money at home. But there are too many impurities in these iron ores, and the agricultural tools and knives he forged are all scrap. The kitchen knife I bought from me yesterday broke while cutting vegetables. This time, not only will your family not be able to pay the head tax, but we, the two of us, may also be caught and assigned to the border." Upon hearing Jia Quan's words, looking at his worried aunt, Qinglin didn't know how to speak. Now only people in Jia village know about this matter. After all, in this era, the transmission of information is very slow. But if this matter were to spread to the surrounding villages, Jia Quan's blacksmith shop would not need to be opened. Once your reputation is ruined, it will be even more difficult to salvage it later. Jia Daoshi's gaze fell on a pile of iron ore next to him, with a hint of contemplation in his eyes. "Uncle, are you talking about those stones?" Jia Quan responded in a muffled tone. "Turn the top." "Jia Daoshi. Let's turn the top." The big guy saw Jia Daoshi and his companions gaze towards the iron ore. He immediately smiled and pulled Jia Daoshi towards the iron ore. Sleeping slot. Jia Daoshi was pulled by this tremendous force and almost fell. This kid's strength is too strong, isn't it? Do people in this era have such great strength? In front of Jia Daoshi, the big guy grabbed a piece of iron ore with both hands and started spinning on the ground. Big gyroscope. Big gyroscope. Jia Daoshi's gaze swept over these iron ores a few times before suddenly saying, "Uncle, these iron ores look pretty good. Let me help you make them, how about it?" Upon hearing this, Jia Quan was taken aback for a moment, then frowned and said, "Jia Daoshi. You know what the hell? If you have nothing to do, leave early. Don't entertain me here." This kid, at first glance, is holding back and trying to cheat money from him. He has been dealing with iron ore for half his life, but can't he see the quality of these iron ores? When Jia Daoshi was discharged from the military, he worked at a local steelmaking plant for 2 years, and later started from scratch, running a mechanical hardware factory and a chemical factory. The knowledge of his time was far beyond that of people in the great Dajing Dynasty. Although there are many impurities in the iron ore in front of us, it is not impossible to solve them. "No, uncle, there's nothing you can do about it. Why don't you let me give it a try? Maybe it's enough." Jia Daoshi smiled. "Absurd. Here you are. Even if I threw all these iron ores into the river, I wouldn't give them to you." Jia Quan retorted. "Jia Daoshi. Wait." At this moment, Tai Lon beside her became anxious. "I said the head of the family and honestly said he has a solution. Why don't we let him try it? Are we really throwing away these iron ores? This is all money." Tai Lon is the name of Aunt Jia Daoshi. "You're a woman, what do you know?" Jia Quan still had a dark face. "Yeah. I don't understand. I was deceived by those ruthless itinerant merchants because I don't understand. You guys are just waiting to be sent out to join the army. Go to war with those cannibalistic Tartars. Anyway, I don't want to live anymore, just do whatever you want. I'm suffering." As Tai Lon spoke, she burst into tears with a runny nose. Jia Quan's face turned even worse when Tai Lon made such a fuss. He could only take a hard puff on his cigarette and almost choked himself to death. Over the years, the great Dajing Dynasty and various tribes in the north have been at war for years, and this is how men have been consumed. They must have died on the prairie, feeding those vultures. If he could choose, he wouldn't want to go to the border either, and his son has a bad brain. If he goes, he will definitely be cannon fodder. After hesitating for a while, Jia Quan finally looked at Qinglin and said, "Qinglin, can you believe what you said honestly?" In this way, the pressure was on Qinglin. Qinglin was confused, and then she instinctively looked at Jia Daoshi. Jia Daoshi nodded at her. Qinglin hesitated for a moment, thinking about his current situation, and immediately said, "Uncle, Daoshi is really different from before. He has received guidance from a Western region's monk. The divine step on the horse's guidance." Jia Daoshi secretly gave a thumbs up to Qinglin. "Oh. Is there something else?" Jia Quan was taken aback for a moment. "I haven't heard of any high monks appearing in the village, have I? Uncle, and experts come and go without a trace, only those who have great opportunities can meet them." Jia Daoshi looked serious and said, "Uncle and aunt, believe in me." Upon hearing this, Jia Quan sighed helplessly and said, "Okay, just give it a try." Chapter 10. There are 7 moles there. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Jia Daoshi first circled around Jia Quan's stove for a moment, then said, come on, let's go and move some big stones back. Brother, make some fun for you. As soon as the big guy heard this, he immediately became enthusiastic and followed behind Jia Daoshi with all his might. Jia Daoshi looked at Jia Quan's forge. The smelting technology of this era is far less advanced than that of his time. Jia Quan's furnace should be able to increase the temperature to over 1,000 degrees, but a certain temperature is far from enough. Under his transformation, the temperature has increased by over 800 degrees. Barely enough. Jia Quan watched coldly. Anyway, there's nothing he can do now, he can only be a dead horse and become a living horse doctor. And judging from Jia Daoshi's appearance, it seems that he really has some abilities. Qinglin and Tai Lan were also stunned at this moment. Especially Qinglin, it feels like Jia Daoshi has completely changed his personality. This guy used to love cleanliness the most, but now he can still make boilers. Climbing up and down on the dark stove, covered in dust, it looks like you're still enjoying it. Qinglin, do you think this Jia Daoshi is an evil? Tai Lan's face looked a bit ugly and she asked softly. Qinglin. If it's not because he's fallen into evil, then this Western region's monk is really powerful. If we encounter him again, we must thank him well. Thank you not enough. We need the old man to make a small Buddha statue for him and confess it. Tai Lan continued. Qinglin. Time slowly passed, and soon Jia Daoshi was ready to prepare. Bring a piece of iron ore over here, it's the one you just carried around. All right. Jia Daoshi, don't forget, after finishing, you want to take me to the city to play. The silly boy is very shrewd. Don't worry, brother will definitely not deceive you. By the way, come and pull the bellows first. Okay. Night falls. All right. Jia Quan held a freshly forged firewood cutter in his hand, his face filled with tears of excitement. In the yard, the firewood on the ground has already been chopped down. And the woodcutter is still sharp as new, without any notches. If it were to be replaced with the woodcutter he forged before, he wouldn't be able to cut a single piece of wood and it would deform. It's a huge difference. At this moment, Jia Quan's voice began to tremble because he was too excited. Tai Lan was also stunned and said, Really? Really successful. As the head of the family, we can afford to pay taxes. That's great. God bless us. Goddess of mercy bless us. Western region's high monks bless us. Tai Lan clasped her hands and bowed in all directions. At this moment, Qinglin also looked incredulous. How could she have thought that this scholar still had such abilities? This feeling is very strange. Suddenly, a thought came to her mind. Can we say that the scholar in front of them is the person they have been looking for? The person who can help them restore their country. You know, they are not ordinary women. Murongjiu is the 9th princess of Qinghua. After Qinghua was destroyed by Dongyi Kingdom, they disguised themselves and entered Jinghua. Traveling all the way, unable to eat. Finally, with the help of Jia Daoshi's identity, he temporarily settled down. Why did they come to Jinghua? That's because when the city was destroyed, the high priest of Qinghua once told them that their hope was in the southeast direction. Keep walking southeast and they will be able to find someone who can help them restore their country. There are 7 moles on this person's buttocks. Ha ha ha. Madam. It's done. At this moment, Jia Daoshi was also very excited. He stepped forward and hugged Qinglin, starting to spin in circles. Because there is no other way, the conditions here are simply too basic, and his probability of success is only 70%. Fortunately, I had good luck and succeeded in the end. Let's go. Perfect. Cough. Lang Junyu. You hurt me. Qinglin's face is a bit red. I'm too excited. Jia Daoshi quickly let go of Qinglin. Jia Quan and Tai Lan's gaze towards Jia Daoshi also changed completely. Lang Jun, congratulations to you. Qinglin smiled slightly. Regardless of whether the other person has moles on their buttocks or not, at least there is hope in their current life. And this is also the first time in a year that she has felt happy. Well, Qinglin, you should smile more often in your daily life. Although you can't see your eyes, you smile so beautifully. Jia Daoshi said. Qinglin didn't expect Jia Daoshi to say such things. He snorted lightly but didn't speak. Jia Quan walked up to Jia Daoshi and punched him in the chest, laughing and saying, "All right. You kid. I didn't see you're quite good at manipulating things. Uncle just blamed you. Since the crisis of scrap iron ore has been resolved, there will be no problem paying taxes." Jia Daoshi smiled and said, "Uncle, don't be polite." The previous Jia Daoshi was really not something. After being enlightened by the master, I have come to an epiphany. From now on, I will definitely start over and won't let you down. Moreover, I will definitely make my wife live a good life. Jia Daoshi spoke sincerely, and Qinglin's face turned red. Daoshi, I didn't expect your kid to really have an epiphany now. That's great. Your parents' spirit in heaven can see you like this now and also comfort you. Jia Quan sighed with emotion. Jia Daoshi smiled and said, "Uncle, I want to make a few small things that can be used for hunting in the mountains." "No problem. My craftsmanship is among the best in the entire Elan County. As long as you can say it, I can do it." Jia Quan patted his chest and said. Jia Daoshi's spirit lifted and he said, "That's great.